Meantime, a beloved art space in Toronto says it can no longer afford to keep its doors open, and it's hoping the community will hear its calls for help. As Patrick Swadden shows us, it's part of a larger art scene in the city, organizations, theaters, festivals that are really struggling right now.
You got it? Yep.
Open Studio has been part of Toronto for 54 years, an artist-run center and institution in the printmaking community. But exec director Pat McCauley says is months away from closing permanently.
This is the only place in Toronto like this. It's huge. It's 7,000 square feet, and it's just too costly for us to continue.
He says the pandemic gravely slowed down use of the space, while rent costs have gone up dramatically and government funding and grants have failed to keep up with inflation.
If this closes, it affects not only the printmakers here that work in here, but it also impacts the universities and art colleges, because when people graduate from colleges and in printmaking, this is where they come.
Artists like Megan Winsley, who's been coming to Open Studio and teaching there for nearly 20 years.
Well, there's going to be people who aren't going to have a place to print, who aren't going to have a place to express themselves and make their art.
So these are the drawing racks.
McCauley has made pleas to all levels of government.
My problem is that nobody's really listening, and culture is suffering for that. And it's not just us. There is, theaters.
We seem to be in this perfect storm of economic and social climate that is disproportionately impacting the live performing arts, especially theaters.
Lepp says about half of pre-pandemic theater audiences haven't returned, while sponsorship of programs is down and governments are tightening their belts.
I have what my shrink calls anxieria.
Last week, Just for Laughs announced cancellations in Toronto and Montreal, while the future of hot dogs is on shaky ground. But Lepp says theater ticket prices generally haven't gone up since 2019, and he's hoping audiences will rediscover the joy it brings.
We're reading studies about increases in loneliness and feelings of isolation. Well, theater is a prescription for some of that.
As for Open Studios, they're also appealing to the public for help.
It's really, truly been amazing. We sent out the letter on Monday, and right away we were getting calls, we were getting donations.
They're over a third of the way to 75,000. The space is closing in June, but McCauley is hoping they get enough in time to restructure and possibly reopen next year. Patrick Swadden, CBC News, Toronto.
You're looking live at Toronto's skyline tonight. Only 1 degree out there at this hour. Kind of